Welcome to Question Bank. This is the second part of the solution for the video for the examination OPSC Assistant Engineer Electrical Engineering 2012-13. So in the previous video we have discussed from question number 1 to 50, as the question is consisting of total 150 questions. In the first video we have discussed 50 questions, and now we are going to discuss from the question number 51. So question number 51: in a circuit, three resistances R ohm each are connected in parallel. How much resistance may be connected in series so that the equivalent resistance be R by 2 ohm? So in the previous video, as I was solving on the paper, so it was taking almost 2 hours for 50 questions. That is why I have already solved the questions in this time, so that it will be easy and it will be completed in less time. So here three resistances R ohm each are connected in parallel. So when we connect three resistances in parallel of equal resistance, then it will be R by 3. So this will become R by 3. And how much resistance may be connected in series so that the equivalent resistance will be R by 2. So suppose that resistance value is X, which is going to be connected with that R by 3. So what will be the total resistance? Total resistance is equal to R by 3 plus X, which is equal to R by 2. So if we calculate X is equal to R by 2 minus R by 3, which will be equal to R by 6. So answer is here is R by 6, option A. Next question is, in a series RLC circuit, which one does not change with change in input frequency? So here given that series RLC circuit, and we have to find out which parameter is not changing with the supply frequency. So we have to find out all the parameters given here: bandwidth, quality factor, resonant frequency. So first thing, what is the resonant frequency? So resonance occurs when the inductive reactance will be equal to that capacitive reactance. So inductive reactance can be given as XL, which is equal to 2 pi FL, that is omega L, and XC is equal to 1 by omega C, that is 1 by 2 pi FC. So if we calculate F for the condition that XL will be equal to XC, it will be F will be equal to 1 by 2 pi root over of LC, that is, this is the resonant frequency. This is the resonant frequency. That means resonant frequency is equal to 1 by 2 pi root over of LC, that is, it is depending only upon the capacitance and the inductance value, not upon the frequency. That means if a circuit is given where R value, C value and L value are given, even what frequency it is going to be operated, we can calculate the resonant frequency, because if we increase the frequency at resonant frequency only, XL will be equal to XC and maximum current will flow. So resonant frequency is not, because it is the constant frequency, it is not depending upon the supply frequency. Next thing is that quality factor. Quality factor is given by, quality factor Q is given by XL equal to XL by R or XC by R, that because XL equal to XC at resonance. So it will be omega 0 L by R, which is equal to 1 by omega 0 C, and this can be converted to this formula: 1 by root over of LC into L by R, which is finally 1 by R into root over of L by C. It is also not depending upon the supply frequency. There is no term of supply frequency. Next thing is bandwidth. Bandwidth is the ratio of resonant frequency and quality factor, as both as both resonant frequency and quality factor are not depending upon the supply frequency, that is why bandwidth is not depending upon the supply frequency. That is why here the term for the bandwidth, that is R by 2 pi L, is not containing the frequency term. So here all the terms are not depending upon the input frequency or the supply frequency. So here answer is all of the above. Next question is Laplace transform of unit impulse function is given by, this is 1. This is 1. The number of root locus with positive real part for characteristic equation 2s cube plus 4s square plus 4s plus 12 is equal to 0 are given by. So the roots with positive real part, that means roots at the right side of the S plane, right hand side of the S plane. So we have to use the Routh stability table. So here I have Routh stability table, I have filled it. First is in the SQ section we have to write down 2, 4 and then 4 and 12. I have to calculate the next value. Next value is 4 into 4, that is 16, minus 24, 12 into 2, 24 by 4, which is going to be equal to minus 2. So here minus 2, here it is minus 2. So in this case, if we consider the first column of this Routh table, what we are observing, first here one sign change occurs from positive to negative, and then here that means from negative to positive, that means two sign changes we are going to see. So that means two roots are present on the right half of the S plane, or they are having the positive real part. So here answer is 2. Next question, question number 55. Question number 55 is given: a magnetic material develops a total magnetic flux of 80 microampere with an MMF of 160 ampere turn. The reluctance would be. So in case of magnetic circuit, the reluctance is analogous to the electrical circuit resistance, and MMF is analogous to the EMF, and flux is analogous to the current. As in case of electrical circuit, according to Ohm's law, resistance can be given by the voltage by current or the EMF by current. Here like that, it can be given as reluctance is equal to MMF, that is magnetomotive force, by the flux. Flux is analogous to the current. So here 160 ampere turn by 80 microampere, which is going to be equal to 2 into 10 to the power 6 ampere turn per ampere. So here option B is the correct answer. Next question is characteristic wave impedance given by. Characteristic wave impedance is given by. So here I have taken the statement, that is what is the characteristic impedance. The wave impedance of an magnetic wave, electromagnetic wave, is the ratio of the transverse component of electric and magnetic field. That means Z is the characteristic impedance, and which is equal to E by H. And E by, what is E and H? E is the transverse component of electric wave, and H is the transverse component of magnetic field. This is for electric field and this is for magnetic field. So what is the transverse component? Transverse component means the normal component to the propagation direction. Suppose in case of electromagnetic wave propagation, electric field and magnetic field are already normal to each other. So the transverse component of each wave will be normal to both the E, that is the electric field, and the magnetic field. So here I have shown this one. This one is the propagation direction in Z direction. This is the propagation direction of electromagnetic wave, and here blue is showing the electric field. This one is the electric field, this one is the electric field, and the red is the blue is vibrating in x direction, whereas the red, that is the magnetic field, is vibrating in the y direction, and its propagation in the direction of z direction. So this is the representation of an electromagnetic wave. So here in this question is asking for the characteristic impedance, and characteristic impedance is given by the transverse components of electric field and by that of transverse component of magnetic field. So this can be given by, which is equal to j omega mu by sigma plus j omega epsilon root over. So for ideal dielectric z will be equal to root over of mu by epsilon. So for free space is, if we consider free space to be an ideal dielectric, it will be mu 0 or mu naught by epsilon naught root over. So, and this is also a constant, as in these options are given E by mu. This is not the correct answer. Also epsilon by mu to the power half, it is also not the answer, because this is mu by epsilon. This is also not the answer. Next is Ex by Hy to the power half. To the power half means, to the power half is not the correct answer, because answer is E by H only, and the transverse component. So Ex by Hy, that means E has the X component and H have the Y component, because already E and H are normal to each other. So normal to both E and H will be in the opposite direction. So E has the X component and H have the Y component. If this is given like Ex by Hx, this is also wrong answer. Next question is, what is the average value of a perfect sine wave over a complete cycle? So this is 0, because if we sum of the values over a complete cycle, this positive half cycle values will be added up to the negative half cycle to form the 0, because this area is positive, this area is negative, and of the same value. Next is, skin effect in conductor would reduce effectively with increase in option A diameter of conductor, option B resistivity of the material used in the conductor, option C frequency of the supply, option D voltage of the power supply. So here answer is resistivity of the material used in the conductor. This is the correct answer. So this is the explanation. What is first skin effect? Skin effect is the tendency of an alternating electric current to become distributed within a conductor such that the current density is largest near the surface of the conductor, and the decrease exponentially with the greater depth in the conductor. So if we, that means in a, suppose we consider a cylindrical solid conductor, then the current density, that is current density will be maximum at the surface area or the peripheral area, and it will be less, current density will be less towards the center of that circumference. So now suppose this one is the cross section of a circular conductor, where current density is shown like the depth of red color here. So here current density is maximum, whereas at the center current density is minimum. So this is called the skin effect. Due to skin effect, resistance, effective resistance of AC conductor line increases. That means if we allow DC, then the current density will be equally distributed, and in case of AC this is not equally distributing. So we can say that the effective resistance in case of AC for a conductor is higher than that of DC. So this skin effect is due to the frequency of that AC. So now skin effect is given by the term skin depth. That means for which depth of that, so from the surface of that conductor towards the center of that conductor or the axis of that conductor, the maximum or the 67% of that current density exists. That is called the skin depth. So skin depth is given by delta is equal to 2 rho by omega mu root 2 over, and here rho is given by the resistivity, omega is the angular frequency which is also equal to 2 pi f, and f is the frequency, and mu is the permittivity of conductor which is equal to mu r into mu 0. Mu 0 is the permittivity of vacuum or the air, and mu are the relative permittivity of that conductor. Because we are considering inside the conductor, we have to consider the permittivity, it is the permeability because of the magnetic terms. So here what is the ideal skin depth? Ideal skin depth is the radius. Ideal skin depth is the radius. Skin depth decreases with decrease, skin depth will decrease, so that skin effect will increase. That means less part of the cross section is containing the maximum current density. So these are the terms for size of conductor. If radius increases, then the skin depth will increase. If frequency will increase, the flux cutting or the flux linkage to the center of the conductor will increase, so that the skin effect will also increase. Second term. Next is permeability. If the permeability of the conductor will increase, here also skin effect also increase, because as the permeability increases, the whole term will decrease. That means skin depth will decrease. As the skin depth decreases, skin effect will increase, as I am described here. So next is the resistivity. Resistivity is in the numerator part. So if it increases, then skin depth will also increase. Skin depth will increase means skin effect will decrease. So we can say that with the increment of resistivity, skin effect will decrease. So here answer is the resistivity of the material used in the conductor. Next question is, what is the unit of magnetic permeability? Magnetic permeability has unity Henry per meter. So here option C. Next question is, what does the expression del cross H is equal to D plus J? So this is the Maxwell equation. This is Ampere circuital law and one of the Maxwell equation. Maxwell has four equations in two formats. So this is one format, and this is for time varying field, and here it should be given in terms of vectors. Next question is, what is the value of specific resistance of copper in ohm centimeter cube. First thing here, this is given wrong. Unit of the specific resistance is given wrong. This is actually ohm meter or ohm centimeter, not ohm per meter cube or centimeter cube. So now here, what is the specific resistance or resistivity? Specific resistance or resistivity is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 8 ohm per ohm meter, not ohm per meter or ohm meter cube, ohm centimeter cube. This is wrong. So now if we convert this to centimeter, this will be 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 6 ohm centimeter. So here option D is the correct answer. So here I have cut out from Wikipedia, silver has 1.68 into 10 to the power minus 8 ohm meter resistivity, and silver have the highest, that is 1.5, sorry, resistivity is the minimum and conductivity is the highest. Conductivity is the highest for silver, and second one is conductive material is copper, and then annealed copper, and then gold, and then aluminum. So next thing is, pick up the correct statement as regards PN junction diode. Option A, mobility means average drift velocity per unit electric field. Option B, mobility means concentration of charge carrier per unit volume. Option C, mobility means acceptor concentration per unit volume. Option D, mobility means donor concentration per unit volume. So here what is the mobility it is asking for? So mobility means average drift velocity per unit electric field. This is actually the definition of mobility. Mobility may be of two types, that is electron mobility and hole mobility. And electron mobility is always higher than that of hole mobility. That is why we are considering the current to be the flow of electrons, not the flow of holes, but the current is consisting of both the flow of electrons and the flow of holes. Next question, question number 63. Question number 63 is, identify the item shown in the figure. So this is generally the Zener diode. Next question is, which parameter of quantity may be measured by use of Maxwell's bridge? Maxwell's bridge we can use to measure the inductance measurement. Next question is, in case of open circuit transmission lines, the reflection coefficient is given by, reflection coefficient is given by, in case of open circuited transmission lines, reflection coefficient. So what is the reflection coefficient? Reflection coefficient is given by ER by EI. So what is ER? ER is electric field of reflected wave, and EI is the electric field of incident wave. So its ratio is called the reflection coefficient, and it is a complex value always, and its value always within 0 to 1. Magnitude will be always within 0 to 1, and this is given by, for transmission line, ZL minus Z0 by ZL plus Z0. And what is ZL? ZL is the load impedance and Z0 is the characteristic impedance of that transmission line. For open circuit line, ZL will be equal to infinity. That means there is no load at the end of that transmission line. That means if we write that limit ZL tends to infinite, this term will be, I am writing that ZL minus Z0 by ZL plus Z0. this will be infinite by infinite term, infinite by infinite form. So if we apply L'Hospital's theory, this will be 1 by 1, that means 1. So the given question reflection coefficient for open circuited transmission line, the answer will be 1. Answer will be 1. Next question is the voltage V in the circuit shown in the figure below given by. So here voltage is asking, we have to find out what is the voltage here. So first thing here, two voltage sources are given in series, so we have to convert it to the one source. So here 5 volt is given like this polarity and 6 volt is in opposite polarity, so this will be added and final this will be 5 volt because this is higher than this one, so this will be plus 5 volt in the manner as that of 10 volt. So now this is 5 volt and the circuit is becoming like this, here we have replaced that two voltage sources to one. Now we have to find out voltage across this V across 2 ohm, and we want to find out that voltage using that superposition principle. So first we have to consider this one alone and then we have to consider that current source alone without that voltage source and then add the total result. So now we will apply superposition principle when only 5 volt voltage source is present and current source will be open circuited, because current source, if we equal the current source to be 0, this will be open circuited. So voltage across 2 ohm will be this will be open circuited, and what will be the voltage source, sorry, the voltage across 2 ohm, will be V1 will be equal to 5 into 2 by 3, that means this is 1 and here voltage division formula I am applying and we are getting 10 by 3 volt. Now when only current source is present, voltage source will be short circuited, that means if we equate the voltage to 0, it will be short circuited. So the whole current will flow through that short circuit path, that means if we do like this, the whole current will go through this short circuit, no current will flow in this way. So now voltage across this will be 0 because this is short circuited and all the current are flowing in this direction. So for second part V2 is we are getting 0, so total voltage across will be voltage across 2 ohm will be V1 plus V2, which is equal to 10 by 3 volt. Option C is the correct answer. Next, question number 67. What is the ratio of resistance and impedance better known as? Ratio of resistance and impedance is better known as the power factor. Next question is, in a copper conductor, the electromagnetic wave at 100 megahertz penetrates to a depth of 7 micrometer. The wavelength of electromagnetic wave is. So this is the skin depth problem actually from the electromagnetic theory. So now copper has the conductivity of 6 into 10 to the power 7 ohm meter inverse. This is the conductivity. So if we calculate the skin depth formula I have already explained, D is equal to or delta is equal to 2 by epsilon naught sigma omega. So here if we apply if we consider copper to be having mu 0 to be equal to that of vacuum, we will find out D to be 0.205 meter. In this question, this is given to be 7 micrometer. So this may be a wrong thing it has given. And next thing is that as your frequency of electromagnetic wave is mentioned, already frequency is given 100 microhertz, sorry 100 millihertz. I have also used in this 100 millihertz. If we use that 100 millihertz, because this is asking that a copper conductor of the electromagnetic wave at 100 millihertz. So the wavelength of the electromagnetic wave this is asking. So we have already the frequency of that electromagnetic wave and we have to find out the wavelength. So we can direct use the formula wavelength is equal to speed of electromagnetic wave by frequency of that wave. So what is the speed of any electromagnetic wave? That is the speed of light, that is 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second by the frequency given 100 into 10 to the power minus 3, that is 100 millihertz. So this will be 3 into 10 to the power 9, that is 3 nanometer. This is the correct answer, but there is nothing given 3 nanometer or all the things are given in micrometer. So I think this question is a wrong concept or managed in a wrong manner. So please comment in the comment section what is your thought to this question. So next question is question number 69. At which temperature does mercury show superconductivity? So this is 4.2 K, that is 4.2 Kelvin, not a degree. In case of Kelvin, degree is not mentioned. Degree is mentioned only in case of Celsius and Fahrenheit scale, not for Kelvin. Kelvin is directly written as 273 K, not degree K. So here I am taken the text. In 1911, while studying the properties of matter at very low temperature, the Dutch physicist H.K. Owens and his team discovered that the electrical resistance of mercury goes to 0 below 4.2 K, that is minus 269 degrees Celsius. This was the very first observation of phenomenon of superconductivity. The majority of chemical elements become superconducting at sufficient low temperature. So the superconductivity of the mercury was the invention of superconductivity. So this is very interesting thing to be noted. And what is superconductivity? Superconductivity means at very low temperature conductivity of that material becomes 0. That is why we call that superconductivity. Next problem is the resolution of a digital voltmeter with 4-digit display provision is. So resolution is equal to 1 by 10 to the power n into scale range. As nothing is given for the scale range, we can take it as 1, and this will be 1 by 10 to the power 4, and this will be 10 to the power minus 4. Option B is the correct answer. Identify the bridge shown in the figure below. So here this is the bridge given and I have marked it to be like this, and here this is a de Sauty bridge for capacitance measurement. So for this I have termed C1, C2 and all the namings, and if C1, if we want to find out C1, it will be C1 will be equal to C4 by C3 into R4 by R3 into C2. If R1 is equal to 0, R1 will be equal to 0, C1 and C1 and C2 are ideal because here no resistance is given in case of C2. So both C1 and C2 will be 0 and this will be de Sauty's bridge. If both C1 and C2 are non-ideal, that means already given a resistance along with C1, we have to add another resistance with C2, so that this will be non-ideal for both C1 and C2, and this will be modified de Sauty's bridge. So this design is called de Sauty's bridge. So what is the option A is given? Option A is given the Owen series bridge. So Owen series bridge is used to measure the frequency. Similarly, the shearing bridge is used for the measurement of capacitance of high voltage, and de Sauty bridge is this one, and this is used for also measurement of capacitance. And the general de Sauty bridge is used to measure the ideal capacitance having very low loss or negligible or no loss, that is loss tangent will be 0. And in case of modified de Sauty bridge, as this is given, used to calculate the capacitance along with that loss, that is tan delta value has finite. Next thing is, the next option is Heaviside Campbell bridge. This is used to measure the mutual inductance. Question number 72. Which of the following is a piezoelectric material? Option A glass, option B quartz, option C mica, and option D is ceramic. So here directly the quartz. Quartz is the naturally available piezoelectric material. And if we consider the ceramic, there are a lot of ceramics such as BaTiO3, that is barium titanate, PT that is lead titanate, PZT that is lead zirconate titanate, and another BZT that is barium zirconium titanate, BCT that means barium calcium titanate, ZNO. These are all ceramics and all are piezoelectric, and among these PZT that is lead zirconate titanate is the maximum used, currently used, and maximum high performing piezoelectric material among the ceramics. And as this is a lead based ceramic, we are searching for the lead free ceramic, that is free from the lead, which is a dangerous metal for human body. So we are considering BZT, BCT, also the combination of BZT, BCT, and also other lead free ceramics, that is BaTiO3 also lead free. Also there is another formula is BFBT, that is bismuth ferrite and barium titanate combination in a certain manner. This is also showing the piezoelectric property, and it has higher Curie temperature than that of BZT, BCT and PZT. So here answer is quartz. Quartz is the naturally available piezoelectric material. Next question is the ratio of power radiated by a short dipole antenna to that of a Hertzian dipole of same length under limiting condition of phase constant beta is. So this is from the communication and the electromagnetic wave. So a short dipole is a dipole formed by two conductors with a total length L subsequently less than a half wavelength. So this is the total power given by a short dipole, and look at the Hertzian dipole. What is Hertzian dipole? This is a theoretical concept. Hertzian dipole or elementary doublet refers to the theoretical construction rather than the physical antenna design. It is an idealized tiny segment of conductor carrying RF current with constant amplitude and direction along its entire short length, or a real antenna can be modeled as the combination of many Hertzian dipoles laid end to end. So here the P net, that is the power, is given like this. So if we consider the both the formula, what we are getting, if we consider the both the formula here, this is del L, because we are considering the infinitesimal the length of that antenna, and this is given in the given question, this is given that length of same length, that means given here same length, dipole of same length. So here instead of using infinitesimal, we can directly write here L, and here if we write the L here, then this one and this one will be similar, and only term is here 12, and here this is 3, 12 and 3. So what will happen, PS, that is the power radiated by a short dipole antenna, by PH, that is power radiated by a Hertzian dipole antenna, will be equal to, suppose I am taking all the terms, that means all the terms except that 12 to be K, it will be K by 12, and in case of Hertzian this will be K by 3, and this is coming to be, the ratio is coming to be 1 by 4. Ratio is coming to be 1 by 4, that means 1:4. Next question is, in a perfect dielectric the order of conduction current is nearly, this is 0, because if we are talking about the perfect dielectric, for perfect dielectric always this is a perfect insulator and the conduction current will be 0. Solder material is an alloy of having composition of tin and lead. This is very common question. Next question, question number 76. Transmission lines are transposed, option A, to reduce copper loss, option B, reduce skin effect, option C, prevent interference with neighboring telephone lines, option D, prevent short circuit between any two lines. So here option C is correct, prevent interference with neighboring communication or telephone lines. Next is question number 77. When a line to ground fault occurs, the current in the fault phase is 100 ampere. The negative sequence current in this case will be. So in case of single line to ground fault, in case of single line to ground fault, the fault impedances are connected in series along with the sequence impedances like this. I have already explained in one of my video that how this is working, and the current will be same, that is the sequences current will be same as these are connected in series. So IA0, that is 0 sequence current, will be equal to IA1, that is the positive sequence current, and will be equal to the same, that is the negative sequence current IA2, which will be equal to IA by 3, that is fault current by 3. So here what will be the negative sequence current? Negative sequence current will be 100 ampere by 3. 100 ampere by 3, that means 33.3 ampere. Next question is, Moe relay, MHO. Moe relay is usually employed for protection of dash, short lines, medium lines, long lines, any line. So this is for long lines. For short lines generally we use reactance relay, for medium lines generally impedance relay, and these are for only phase faults, and for earth fault relay generally reactance relay is used. Question number 79. Which of the following plants has lowest load factor? So what is the load factor? Load factor is the energy consumed during a period of time t by peak load into time t. So according to our energy regulatory, Central Electricity Regulatory Commission, plant load factor is defined in terms of percentage, and this is the percentage of energy sent out by power plant corresponding to installed capacity in that period. This is the, for example, if a power plant with an installed capacity of 500 megawatt operates through a day, its maximum load at its maximum load, the energy generated will be 500 megawatt into 24 hour, that is 1200 megawatt hour. So the energy sent out by the plant when operating at 450 megawatt for 24 hour, it will be 10,800 megawatt. This is the example. And what will be the plant load factor? Plant load factor will be the ratio, that is 10,800 by 12,000, and this will be 90%. So at low, plant load factor is bad for power plant, as it indicates that the plant is not being used to its optimal capacity, and it will increase the per unit cost for the power production. So now this is the concept of load factor. So now in the question given is, which of the following plant has lowest load factor? That means lowest load factor means a highest load factor will be for that plant which is running always, that is we are running it always, that for the base load condition. So here the base load condition plant is the nuclear plant, because it is difficult to start and stop. So this is always a base load plant. And in case of thermal and diesel, thermal is somewhat easier that of nuclear, and diesel plant is easier to start. So thermal plant is also a base load plant, but the diesel plant is above that base load plant. We use the diesel plant to consume that, to avail the load for above the base load, and pumped storage plant is always the peak load and it is not always operated. So here answer will be the pumped storage plant. So pumped storage plant is the plant which is having the lowest load factor, and this is not a economic one. Next question is, an alternator is rated 100 megavolt ampere, 11 kV, 6 ohm. What will be the charge in per unit reactance of the alternator if the capacity of the voltage levels are doubled? So in this question given that we are making the MVA rating and kV rating doubled. So what will happen? So these values are no value if we consider the formula. So Z per unit new will be Z per unit old into kV old by kV new square into MVA new by MVA old. This is the formula, and here given that kV new is 2 times that of kV old. So this will be half square into 2, because MVA new is also 2 times that of MVA old. So this will be Z per unit into Z per unit by 2. So Z per unit will be halved. Z per unit will be halved. That is the reactance of the per unit reactance of the alternator will be halved. Next question is, which of the following holds true? Here XD double prime is the soft transient direct axis reactance of the alternator or synchronous generator. XD prime is the transient, XD prime is the transient direct axis reactance, and XD is the actual or the steady state reactance. So this is the relation. That means soft transient is less than that of steady state. direct axis reactance for an alternator or synchronous generator. Next question is a 200 megawatt generator is having a plant capacity factor of 30% and plant load factor of 50%. What will be the reserve capacity of the plant? So this is reserve capacity is a very important term and asked many times in engineering services examination, and you have to remember this one. From the power system, one is that pumped storage plant. Know everything about that pumped storage plant, because in many exams many questions have already been asked about that pumped storage plant, and this is a very special term. And the next thing is, for these terms or the calculations for generation or economy, reserve capacity is another. Reserve capacity, load factor and capacity factor, diversity factor, all these are very important things. So here reverse capacity of the plant is asked. So first thing, plant capacity factor is given to be 30% and load factor is given to be 50%. What is the capacity factor? Capacity factor is the maximum load by plant capacity into load factor. This is the relation between capacity factor and the load factor. So this will be 30 will be equal to the maximum load by 100 megawatt into 50. And what will it happen? Maximum load we are getting to be 30 into 100 by 50 megawatt, and this is equal to 60 megawatt, and maximum load is this one, and plant capacity is given to be 100 megawatt. So what will be the reserve capacity? Reserve capacity will be plant capacity minus maximum load, that is equal to 100 megawatt minus 60 megawatt, which is equal to 40 megawatt. So here answer is 40 megawatt. Next question is, skin effect results in option A reduced effective resistance. This is wrong, because effective resistance increases. I have already explained. Increased effective resistance, what? Reduced effective internal reactance of the conductor. This is the correct answer. Next question is question number 84. Shunt inductors are primarily installed in transmission line to option A improve power factor, option B improve stability, option C reduce Ferranti effect, option D improve voltage profile. This is one of the important question and very interesting concept, because this is rarely used. To reduced Ferranti effect, answer is to reduced Ferranti effect, because shunt capacitors are very common but shunt inductors are not very common. So here I have the text here. This method, that is the shunt inductor method, shunt inductor compensation method, is used either when charging the transmission line, because we don't charge the transmission line open, keeping it open, we have to connect an inductor, because maximum load are inductive, so we have to connect a parallel inductor or shunt inductor for charging the line, transmission line, or when there is very low load at the receiving end. Due to very low load or no load, very low current flows through the transmission line. Shunt capacitance in the transmission line causes voltage amplification. That is the definition of Ferranti effect. That means we are getting more current, more voltage value is more at the receiving end than that of sending end voltage. This is called the Ferranti effect, and this is due to the shunt capacitance of the line. So to regulate that shunt capacitance or to nullify that shunt capacitance effect or the Ferranti effect, we use shunt inductance. The receiving end voltage may become double the sending end voltage. This is the definition actually. To compensate this one, shunt inductors are connected across the transmission line. Next question is, when two conductors each of radius r are at a distance d, the capacitance between the two is proportional to. So capacitance formula is C is equal to pi epsilon naught by log base E d by R. So here it is inversely proportional to log base E d by R, not R by D. So here option C is the correct answer. Next question is question number 86. The equipment installed in power plants to reduce air pollution due to smoke is electrostatic precipitator because it collects the particulate matters that are present in the smoke or the output of that plant, so that the particulate matters will not be opened to the environment and it will pollute the environment. Next question is question number 87. In a transmission line having negligible resistance, the surge impedance is the root over of L by C. This is the formula and this is also the definition. Zero sequence current is absent in which of the following fault? AG, AB, ABG, ABCG. So AB is for ABC, here are the phases or the lines. So here AG is the line to ground fault, AB is the line to line fault, ABG is the two line to ground fault, ABC is the three phase line to ground fault. So here for single line to ground fault, I have already explained that all the three sequence, positive, zero and negative sequences are present and these are the half of that current, half of that phase current or the line current. In case of line to line fault, zero sequence current is 0. IA0 will be 0, but the negative sequence will be negative of positive sequence. This is important thing. So here answer is this one. If we consider the double line to ground fault, all the three are present and all are having unequal finite values, unlike line to ground fault. And in case of three phase to ground fault, which may be also a symmetrical fault, this will be here also zero sequence current is also 0, along with that negative sequence is also 0. So I have not selected this one, only selected this one because question is asking for zero sequence current is absent. In case of three phase to ground fault, both negative sequence and zero sequence are absent, only positive sequence current is present. So next question is, which of the following is not a base load plant? So this is very simple. I have already told that pumped storage plant is one of the important term in the generation part of power system. So here answer is pumped storage plant. Next is the average output voltage VDC of the full wave diode bridge rectifier. This is 2 Vm by pi, and if this is given for the half wave diode rectifier, this will be Vm by pi. Next question is, a half controlled single phase bridge rectifier is supplying RL load. It is operating at a firing angle of alpha and load current is continuous. The fraction of cycle that the freewheeling diode conducts is. So here this one is the circuit for the half controlled single phase bridge rectifier, and here freewheeling diode is given and load is RL type. So what type of wave? This one is the supply voltage wave and this is the output voltage wave across the RL load, and as there is a L, current will be continuous for that freewheeling diode. And here freewheeling diode is conducting for this part to maintain that continuous current. So for this position, for this position thyristor is conducting, and after that from pi to 2 pi freewheeling diode is conducting due to that of the current due to inductor. So freewheeling diode is conducting for pi times. That means here for a general sinusoidal wave the total full cycle is 2 pi of 2 pi. Then what will be the fraction of cycle for that freewheeling diode conduction? This will be pi by 2 pi. That means half. Half is the fraction of cycle for which freewheeling diode is conducting. So next question number 92. The typical ratio of latching current to holding current in a 20 ampere thyristor is. So generally in case of thyristor latching current is higher than of holding current, and for a 20 ampere thyristor generally you can find that this is around 1.67. so we can write it to be 2. Next question is a single phase full wave half controlled or semi controlled bridge converter feeds an inductive load. The two SCRs in the converter are connected to a common DC bus. The converter has to have a freewheeling diode. Option A, because the converter inherently does not provide for freewheeling. Option B, because the converter does not provide for freewheeling for high value of trigger angle. Option C, or else the freewheeling action of the converter will cause short circuiting of the AC supply. Option D, or else if a gate pulse to one of the SCRs is missed, it will subsequently cause a high load current in the other SCR. So here causes are given, but the converter has to have freewheeling diode because the converter inherently does not provide of freewheeling. This is the answer, because if there will be no freewheeling diode, from starting of each half cycle to firing angle, from suppose this one is the supply voltage, and from starting to the firing angle, from this to this and from this to this, because for this is for a full wave rectified, and for this is the actual without any control. For controlled from starting to this one, suppose this one is alpha, there will be no conduction, in case of current. So to maintain continuous current, we generally use the freewheeling diode, and not to allow the inductor current to flow through the supply. Next question is a single phase fully controlled thyristor bridge AC to DC converter is operating at a firing angle of 25 degree, that is the alpha, and an overlap angle of 10 degree with constant DC output current of 20 ampere. The fundamental power factor or the displacement factor at input AC main is. So this is one of the GATE 2007 question, and this is very lengthy question, and this cannot be solved without a calculator. And now I am solving it. I0, that is the output current, which is given to be 20 ampere, is equal to Vm by omega L into cos alpha minus cos alpha plus mu. Mu is the overlapping angle and alpha is the firing angle, and I have to calculate that L. And what is the L? We are considering here the supply voltage to be 230. If we not consider and if we maintain that Vm and V and that frequency f, what it will happen, here they all will be cancelled out, but the whole the process will be very much lengthy and clumsy. So I have taken the voltage to be 230 volt and 50 hertz, and here we are getting that L is 4.5 millihenry. So what is the average voltage output? This is 2 Vm cos alpha by pi minus omega L I naught by pi, and I naught is given to be 20 ampere. So here V naught is we are getting, if we calculate, we are getting V naught, we are getting 178.79 volt. This is volt. And what is the power input power factor? Input power factor is the average power or the DC power by the RMS value, that is the V naught I naught by V RMS I RMS, and this is in both the cases I is constant and 20 ampere, and here V naught is 178.74 by 230, and this is coming to be 0.78. Next question is, in thyristor holding current is less than that of latching current, because we have seen that latching current by holding current is more than 1, that means 2. So holding current is less than that of latching current. During forward blocking state, a thyristor is associated with option A, large current and low voltage, low current and large voltage, medium current and large voltage, none of the above. So during forward blocking state, the thyristor is associated with low current and large voltage, because it blocks the forward current and the whole voltage will be there, whole voltage will be present across that thyristor, and the current is very low, and this is the leakage current in forward blocking state. One SCR starts conducting a forward current, its gate loses control over option A, anode circuit voltage only, anode circuit current only, anode circuit voltage and current, option D, none of the above. So here it loses the control over both current and voltage, because when SCR conducts the forward current, it gets, if we remove the gate current, if we remove the gate signal, it will start or it will continue to conduct. That means if we remove that gate signal, there will be no change in the conduction. That means voltage will be, that is ideally voltage will be 0 across that thyristor, and current will be according to the load. That means the gate is losing the control over both voltage and current. Next question is question number 98. The function of Snowball circuit connected across the SCR is to suppress dV by dt. Option A, suppress, option B, increase dV by dt, option C, decrease dV by dt, and option D, decrease di by dt. So here we have to use English knowledge. That means here option A is given suppress dV by dt, and here option C is given decrease dV by dt. So you may think that here suppress and decrease may be same, but I have found it that for the suppress, the dictionary meaning of the surface is to control, not to reduce to 0, and decrease means it may indicate we are reducing the dV by dt to 0. So we are not making dV by dt 0, we are only suppressing to a controlled value, so that it will not on, or it will not on that thyristor on uncontrolled manner, in a uncontrolled manner. So question number 99 is UJT, unijunction transistor, exhibits negative resistance negative resistance region. What is the negative resistance region for UJT? Option A, before the break point, between peak and valley point. Option C, after the valley point. Option D, both A and C. So here this is the current and voltage capacity, current voltage characteristic, and here in between peak and valley point, in between peak and valley point, this is showing negative resistance region because its slope has negative value. So in between peak and valley point, question number 100, and this is the last question of this session. For dynamic equalizing circuit used for series connected SCRs, the choice of C is based on option A, reverse recovery characteristic, option B, turn off characteristic, option C, turn on characteristic, turn off characteristic, and option D is rise time characteristic. So this is based on the reverse recovery characteristic. This is also a very important concept, that the dynamic equalizing circuit consisting of the R and C, and this C is depending upon or based on the reverse recovery characteristic of that thyristor. So this is the end of this topic, and as for previous announcement, I am also announcing again, if you have any state PSU or any recent exam questions unsolved by any authenticated sources, you can comment in the comment section or send me that question, so that if I am able to solve those questions, I will make a video on that whole the question paper. So please comment in the comment section if you have any unsolved paper of recent exams of your state PSU or anything related to electrical engineering. And another thing is, if I am solved any question wrong, or if I am explaining anything wrong, please let me know so that I can rectify myself.